Welcome to the Privacy Report. Today, we are plunging right into one of the most consequential decisions you make almost every day in the digital world.
Yeah.
Informed consent.
Right.
Specifically, that moment you click accept on a terms of service agreement, often without even thinking about it.
It's the digital handshake, isn't it? The quick scroll, the inevitable click. But that tiny moment is treated legally like a binding contract.
A contract that, for most people, is just a thick fog of legal jargon that no normal person is ever expected to read.
Or could read, even if they wanted to.
Exactly. So today, we're going to show you how certain tools and analyses are starting to cut through that dense, privacy-risky language. We're tackling the huge gap between clicking consent and actually understanding the risks you just accepted.
This is really about getting some of that control back.
It is. And as a quick note, you can subscribe to our email newsletter for more guidance on these topics at theprivacyreport.net.
Great resource.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If these are legally binding contracts, why do we need outside help to understand what we're signing? I mean, the argument always comes up, right? Shouldn't we just read them?
Well, that argument, it sounds logical, but it completely ignores the reality of what we're dealing with. It's a systematic failure of informed consent.
Systematic how?
These agreements are often tens of thousands of words long. They're explicitly written, first and foremost, to protect the company, not to inform you.
And the really wild part is that when you click accept, the courts treat that as a meaningful, informed agreement.
Exactly. Even though, let's be honest, full comprehension is basically impossible for 99% of people.
That's the perfect way to put it. And that's where these tools come in, these translators.
Yes, they function as a kind of risk exposure tool. They analyze all those thousands of words and distill the legal jargon into clear, privacy-focused summaries. They help you see the hidden consequences before you're locked in.
So the key here is prioritization. It's not trying to summarize every single line about server uptime or whatever.
General.
It's targeting the issues that really define your risk. So what are the big ones? What are the red flags that pop up immediately?
The analyses really zoom in on a few high-priority issues. First, and this is the big one, can your personal data be sold or widely shared with third parties? Foundational. Second, they look for mandatory arbitration clauses.
And okay, for those who might not be familiar with that term, what is the practical consequence of agreeing to that?
It's critical to understand. Mandatory arbitration is a huge surrender of your power. It basically forces any legal dispute you have out of the public court system and into a private one that's usually controlled by the company.
So you can't sue them in open court.
You can't sue them in court, and maybe more importantly, you lose the right to join a class action lawsuit. It essentially privatizes all the legal risk, shifting it onto you.
That is a fundamental loss of recourse.
Absolutely. Then, beyond that, they also assess platform power. Does the service have the right to just terminate your account without any appeal?
Which is an existential threat if your business runs on that service.
Totally. And finally, for creators, they check if your uploaded content, your photos, your writing, anything, can be reused commercially by the platform, potentially without you ever seeing another dime.
So these tools aren't just grading transparency. They're answering that gut question we all have.
Yeah.
Is this agreement safe, or is it actually risky for me?
Precisely. It moves past, is it easy to read, and gets to what are the actual consequences?
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But how does the analysis itself work? I mean, it seems like a monumental task.
It has to be transparent to be credible. Most use a community-reviewed point system, so analysts break down a policy into specific, verifiable claims.
Like simple statements of fact.
Exactly. Simple statements like, this service shares data with third-party advertisers, or users are forced into arbitration. Each of those little claims is then evaluated as good, bad, or maybe neutral, unclear.
And I've seen these. All those little points roll up into one overall letter grade.
Right.
Like A through E.
Yeah, that's the snapshot.
But I have to push back a little there. Isn't that a dangerous oversimplification? Can one letter really capture all that nuance?
That's a really important question, and it gets to the limitations. You have to see the grade as a filter, not a final diagnosis. First, the tool does not tell you what's illegal. And this is fascinating. Many of the worst terms, like forced arbitration or selling data, are perfectly legal in many places. So a bad rating doesn't mean the company is breaking the law. It means the policy is bad for you.
So legality and being user-friendly are two completely different things here.
Completely separate. Second, the summary is not a legal shield. It's meant to highlight the big risks, not replace the whole contract. And third, you have to accept there's a lag time. Policies change overnight, and reviews can be weeks behind.
That lag time is a real constraint, but I guess the main point is that it changes the timing of your awareness.
Yes. Instead of finding out your data was sold 6 months down the line, you understand the trade-offs before you even sign up.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the real world. What does this kind of analysis show us about the big platforms we use every single day?
Well, when you hold their terms up to this kind of light, you start to see patterns. Take Google.
Right.
On the one hand, a pro is their extensive documentation. They are transparent if you have a week to read it all. But the risk is immense. Broad data collection across all their services, policies that can apply retroactively, and very limited recourse if your account gets suspended.
And that account suspension risk is something people just don't think about until it happens. Losing your Gmail is catastrophic for a lot of people.
Catastrophic. Then you've got Meta, Facebook, Instagram. Their policies are often, believe it or not, written a bit more plainly than their rivals. But the risks are clear. Extensive behavioral tracking for ads and opt-out tools that are often, let's say, deliberately buried.
And what about Amazon?
Amazon's a big one. Reliable service, sure. But their terms are built around mandatory arbitration. Accounts can be suspended with very little appeal. And maybe the biggest thing is that your data is explicitly shared across their huge network, Prime, Twitch, Ring, you name it.
So when you put it all together, you see it's not just a random collection of bad terms.
No, it's a unified strategy. The mandatory arbitration takes away your right to sue. The content reuse lets them profit from your work. The termination power lets them cut you off if you become a problem. It's all designed to prioritize platform power over user rights.
That power imbalance is a huge risk, especially if you rely on these platforms for your livelihood. For a small business, a creator, a small team, it can really feel like you're walking on thin ice.
It really can.
And look, if you run a small business, newsletter, or a website, and you need some practical, privacy-forward guidance without all the corporate complexity, you can book a consultation. It's really about getting clarity on those infrastructure risks and just securing your digital foundations.
That kind of mitigation is so important because we have to stop falling back on that old advice to just read the terms. The data shows it just doesn't happen.
What does the data say?
A 2023 Pew Research survey found that 56% of Americans frequently click agree without reading. And that's just the ones who admit it.
And it's so important to understand this isn't just people being lazy. It's actually by design.
Exactly. The FTC's 2022 staff report documented how companies use dark patterns. This is design that is optimized for acceptance, not for understanding.
Like the big green accept all button next to a tiny gray customize link.
That's a perfect example. These are misleading interfaces designed to get that click whether you understand the consequences or not.
And even the attempts to simplify things, like those privacy labels on app stores, often fall short. Mozilla's research on the Google Play Store's data safety labels found they frequently don't even match the app's actual privacy policy.
Which is worse, in a way. It gives you a false sense of security. And that's why independent analysis that accepts human limits is so valuable. These tools don't pretend you're going to read everything. They just give you the essential facts you need to make the decision.
Okay, so let's get practical. Let's outline a workflow. You're about to sign up for a new service. How do you actually use one of these tools to make a better decision?
I'd say a 5-step process. It's about inserting a little bit of friction into that one-click habit. First, check the service rating before you do anything else. Just see if there are immediate red flags.
Okay, step 1.
Step 2, just read the top bad points. Don't try to read the whole summary. Focus on the big ticket items, the forced arbitration, the data selling.
You're focusing on your personal deal breakers. What's step 3?
Step 3 is to ask yourself that core question. Would I still sign up knowing the specific thing? Be honest with yourself. For some, losing the right to sue is a non-starter. For others, convenience might win out.
And then step 4 is to actually decide based on that risk tolerance, not just out of habit, which often means walking away from a tool your friends are all using.
And that's the hardest part, saying no to convenience.
It is.
And then finally, step 5, revisit the rating once a year or after a major policy change, because these things are not static.
That feels really actionable. But you mentioned blind spots like lag time. What other knowledge do we need to have to really understand what these summaries are telling us?
We need context. If a summary says broad data sharing, you need to understand what that implies. Are we talking data brokers, governments, both? Or if a service can terminate your account with no notice, you need to understand the practical disaster of a SaaS product just disappearing with all your data.
Right, and that idea of invisible data trails is so key. Even if the policy says your content is private, the metadata, who you talk to, when, for how long, that's often collected and analyzed.
Yeah. Understanding that helps explain why even a neutral-sounding policy can still be a huge privacy risk.
And I think for a lot of people, connecting all those dots, the terms, the data brokers, the metadata, it can be incredibly confusing. It's just overwhelming if you're just trying to improve your own privacy.
It's a full-time job.
It really is. And for listeners who'd rather not guess and want to save some time, you can request a privacy checkup. This is a personalized assessment that looks at your accounts, your devices, your whole setup, and gives you a clear action plan and tool recommendations that are tailored to you.
That's a great option for cutting through the noise.
So to wrap this up, the core message here is that consent is basically meaningless if you don't have understanding.
Yeah.
We now have tools that can help us move beyond just passively clicking accept.
We can move into active risk management, and the uncomfortable truth behind all of this is that the reason so many people accept risky terms is simple. It's convenience. We have to constantly examine the hidden trade-offs we make for these frictionless services. That's the real takeaway. It's the high price of, well, the cost of convenience.
That's a profound thought to end on. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to The Privacy Report wherever you listen. This episode was made with the assistance of AI.